Hello, everyone. Good morning. Hope everyone's having a good day so far. Hope everyone's enjoying their wow week. This is just the beginning. We have plenty more things for you guys this week. Um, Hope you're gonna have a lot of fun throughout the rest of the week and today as well. So before we get started with anything about the information, I'm gonna introduce myself and my partner. Um, my name is Kelvin. I work for the CAUSE program, and it's located here at the aquarium or in Camden at the Adventure Aquarium. And just a little bit about the CAUSE program, what we do is we're essentially a youth development program that aims to give back to the community in forms of education. So like we're gonna do for you guys today, a live animal presentation, other forms of community engagement, just looking to give back to the community by educating them. And my partner here, Jack, say hello, Jack. He's gonna be helping me with, taking care of the spider crab while I'm gonna be giving you guys the facts. And let's see here. So I think it's about time we could just dive into the information. So let's see, the spider crab. Before we get into any specifics about the spider crab itself, I want to give you a little background on what it actually is. So the spider crab is classified as an arthropod. Now, there are specific things that they need to have, so specific characteristics that they need to have in order to be classified as an arthropod. So some of those things, and really one of the most important things, is to have jointed appendages. Now, what that may be, with those could be arms, those could be legs, things that help them move, crawl. They could help them feed. It's really one of the major characteristics of an arthropod. Now, something else about one of their characteristics is the exoskeleton, or their outer shell. Now, it's usually called a carapace for most of these animals, and they're usually made of chitin and calcium. And that's really the main material of the carapace. Something else about their characteristics is that their eyes. Most arthropods have two specific eye types. What those may be, you may ask? Well, those are complex eyes and simple eyes. Now, let me explain a little bit about what those are. Complex eyes, the best way I can describe them is, if you've ever seen a fly, their eyes have a bunch of different like little panels, like on just one eye. All those different panels help them detect the movement that's around them, and they have a very wide range of view, and they detect lots of movement. Those are complex eyes. Now, for simple eyes, it's very different. The best way I can explain this is, let's see. You can close your eyes, point yourself in the direction of a light source, and just wave your hand, in front of your eyes. Essentially, what simple eyes do is they detect light and dark. Just like the little example I gave you guys, if you're looking at a light source, you're looking and you could see your hand moving, and you could see the changes from light to dark. That is what simple eyes are. Now, another important characteristic about arthropods is that they fertilize sexually. So you're gonna need two partners of the sex, the male and the female, in order to get the eggs. Now, I think it's about time we get into the specifics of the spider crab itself. Now, one of the most distinctive things of a spider crab is its outer shell. It has a very hard triangular shaped carapace. And what makes this a little bit more unique is that they're covered in little hairs and fibers that are just all over the shell and whatnot. And it's something that can help that I'll get into a little bit later. It helps it defend itself, but that's something I'll get into in just a minute. Now, it has those little hairs. They're called tubercles. Now, something else about the spider crab that's very noticeable is its long legs. Now, the spider crab can vary in different sizes, and really the common spider crab can grow up to about a foot long. But the common spider crab isn't the only form of spider crabs. We have the Japanese spider crab. Now, those boys can get up to maybe about 12 feet. Their carapace maybe 6 inches. Those can get really big. But as far as the common spider crab, just about a foot long. And another thing to note about their legs is that because of how long they are and their size, they tend to move really, really, really slow. Also, something cool about the spider crab is that when they're in their environments, they can tolerate polluted waters and low oxygen waters. So that's something cool about them. Although they can survive, they can tolerate those polluted waters. That isn't really a reason to, you know, to let pollution slide. It's always good to clean up and make sure you're doing your part to avoid, dirtying up our seas and our waters. Now, I want to move into their feeding. So something to know about the spider crabs is their eyesight. Their eyesight isn't the best. So they had to rely on other things about their body to help them feed. And really the most important thing that they use are sensory organs that they have. They have very sensitive tasting, so they'll know what they're eating, what they're tasting, and what they're picking up. And also they have sensory organs at the very ends of their legs. That what those essentially do is they help them move around, feel what they're grabbing, feel what they're touching, and help them decipher now whether they're getting food or not. Now, I also want to move in to their defense mechanisms, or how they defend themselves from predators and whatnot. Their biggest form of defense is their carapace, their outer shell. And it's usually described as an exoskeleton as well, the outer.
All right, this is Jack. I think we somehow lost my partner, but he was talking about how hard the shell is, the carapace, the real hard part. And that's his best defense. You can see this crab is trying to reach over. He almost got me. Reach over to try to get my fingers. He has a really long arms and a strong claw and has really good movement. He can get those claws all over the place, except right where my hands are. So he can't get me, or so I hope. But that hard shell is for protection for the part that his claws can't reach. The rest of his protection is those claws, like I mentioned. They are strong, they're small, they're not as hard as a crabs you might be more familiar with, but they get the job done. And he can also use those claws, and you can see him doing it with his face a little bit, as being sort of like tweezers. He can pick certain things off his shell. He can clean himself. He's kind of doing that now. And sometimes he can actually pull seaweed and other things and put them on his back to kind of make him hide. And I see my partner's back, so I'm going to turn it over.
Sorry about that, guys. So as I was coming in, I believe Jack was talking about how he decorates himself in different little things like crustaceans, little algae. And so those are things that's another form of defense that they use to protect themselves. It's essentially camouflage. So spider crabs are typically going to be, crawling around the bottom, the rocky parts of the sea. And so those things can be very, very useful to avoid being detected and to avoid being attacked and whatnot. So to move on, we're going to get into the mating. Now, I mentioned it as a characteristic of arthropods. A spider crab is going to be able to mate sexually. So they're going to need partners, or one from each sex, a male and a female. Now, typically how this goes is a female is going to have fertilized eggs attached to their abdomen. Now, and then they're going to select the location and then lay their eggs. Now, something cool about about the birth of the spider crabs is that typically within the first 15 minutes of their birth, the baby crabs will molt. Now, I mentioned that word a little bit earlier. What molting means is essentially they grow out of their old shell and start to prepare their new shell. So in the first 15 minutes of birth, a spider crab will begin to molt and grow into their new shell. And this process continues and continues until they fully develop into a mature crab. They molt and grow. So one of the last things I want to mention about spider crabs is whether or not they're threatened as a species. Now, currently, nothing is really threatening them, and they aren't in danger. So that's really good, and that's something we hope to keep, to keep constant, that their species is safe. Yeah, that's about it in terms of the spider crab. I think we're looking to get questions, maybe. What do they eat? Okay, so I'm gonna pass this question to Jack.
So crabs eat lots of different things. Mostly they're scavengers. They're really good scavengers. Those long arms with very delicate and precise claws help them pick up specific things. So anything that's dead in the ocean, they are the cleanup crew, which is really important. But they can also eat sea stars, starfish. They can eat worms. They can eat anything that is small enough for them to, and slow enough for them to grab and eat. But they eat it in very, very small pieces. They take the sort of like long tweezers. They grab a piece of dead fish or a worm, and then take it and put it into their mouth and suck it down.
Sounds good.
Good question.
Will they get really big? So I think I mentioned this briefly, but I can expand on it a little bit more. So the common spider crab, which is what we have displayed for you here, their legs, so essentially their wingspan, can get to about a foot long, and that's generally the max for the spider crabs here. But really the biggest of the spider crabs is the Japanese spider crab. Now their wingspan, their leg size can get to about 12 feet in length. Their carapace, their shell on top, can get to about 6 inches, 6 inches in size. And the Japanese spider crabs, hence their name, are usually found in Japanese waters and Japanese areas. That was a great question. So where can you find the spider crabs, the common spider crabs? So they can be found, they can be found in Jersey. They're found typically in harbor areas, bay areas. They can be found on the bottom of oceans, the bottom ocean floors. And something that's cool about them is that they can inhabit in brackish water areas. So what brackish water means is it's a mix of fresh and salt water. So yeah, you could typically find them in those type of areas. So I think that's about all we have time for here today. I want to thank everyone for watching, tuning in. I hope you learned something. I hope you enjoyed the presentation that we have for you guys. I hope you enjoy the rest of your week. And on behalf of CAUSE, I'm Kelvin, and my partner Jack. We're signing off. Thank you so much.